When we are doing the will of our true self, we are inevitably doing the will of the universe. In magic, these are seen as indistinguishable. That every human soul is in fact one human soul. It is the soul of the universe itself, and as long as you are doing the will of the universe, then it is impossible to do anything wrong.
Slither hither, weirdos and witches. My name is Keats Ross, and you're listening to Pragmagick. Alexx Bollen. Although this being his first appearance on Pragmagick, he is a seminal figure in this podcast biography. Not only was he gracious enough to have a bright-eyed and bushy-tailed young me on his infamous Alexxcast just short of a year ago, but he became a guiding light and fixture for me in this very medium. He's a godfather in the podcasting world, mind you, and, well, it's about time I kissed the ring. In all seriousness, the Grey Jedi, Alexx and I chat about his hypersigil, his debut novel, Periphery, and what it means to bleed onto the page, mental anguish, and all, to birth a beautiful work from sordid affairs. He's created a living, breathing talisman in Periphery, and we chat about how the book is an introductory rite into the realms of magicks, constructed with the intention of illuminating constructs and conduits upon each read. And it's a damn good narrative too. I had to cut down the almost 2-hour chat, sacrificing some of our nerdiest Star Wars jaunts only, but you can still hear the full unedited discussion via the We the Hollowed Patreon for just $1 subscription. That's patreon.com/We the Hallowed. Stay tuned for our live Disruption Generator reading, celebrating Eric Millar's halfway point in the construction of the oracular device as a bonus episode to be released later this week. Well, hey, Alexx, thanks so much for coming down.
Thank you. Thank you, Keats. I appreciate the invite.
No, I do really appreciate this is an episode of Pragmagick that I have been meaning to get you on for a long time, but you have been gracious enough to host me and the Alexxcast. Was this we'll call this the Dungeon of Delight.
Oh, this is the Echo Chamber Studios.
Ooh, I like it.
Yeah, although now I've put up soundproofing.
I was going to say there's not much echoes.
Oh, I assure you,
for good reason.
It used to be. I mean, just hilariously bad. Like you could not pick a worse room to record something in.
I see. Is it like it's stucco? Like
no,
what
this
is this?
So this is the wall over here. That's just outside concrete. This house is a 1907 house.
Yeah.
So like the wall on your right is just pure concrete going to the outside. So it's echo as shit. The floor is just varnished concrete. So there is nothing remotely absorbent in this room. So,
and this is a house. This is like you have a cool kind of I want to say a back end house situation where was prior like something else. This wasn't a house, was it?
The upstairs has always been like a proper house. Down here was just a basement. So yeah, I just basically just rented a basement that they threw some shitty walls up in and said it was an apartment.
Yeah, this is very Portland. Just walking around Lads earlier on my way over which we've talked about. I mean, you've talked about this area being very occult laden.
Oh yeah.
I got a breath of autumn for the first time. That's why I was wondering if the last time I was here was it in autumn, because I had that weird remembrance of, oh my God, things are getting warmer. You know,
it probably was in the fall last year here. I don't remember when we did that episode, but it's been a spell.
God,
So yeah.
Thank God it's documented, right?
Yeah, but I don't remember. I mean, at least on the Alexxcast, which I have to keep reminding myself that this is your show right now.
No, this is your show.
I live in when I do a podcast, I make it a point of like, it's one of the few times I can do like mindfulness meditation where I'm so in the moment doing podcasts where I don't remember a fucking thing that happened.
Yeah.
Like if you quiz me afterwards, I might, not a thing. Like I might remember vague topics and stuff. Like if someone says, "Oh, I really like that line," don't remember it, don't know, like it's gone. Like I'm there for it. So
yeah,
it's immediately forgotten. And I've also done like 400 episodes of the show, so they all blend into one long slog.
You're Big Papa caster of pods, that's for sure.
I mean, I can't imagine there's someone in Portland that's done more podcasts than I have.
No, you are legit grandfather podcaster. It's probably the most legit one that I know. You know, because you've been. I mean, you said. Wait, you're on like 300. What is it? K L?
No. The last.
M?
The next episode is 300p. I think.
Ooh, all right.
Maybe it's 300. It's O or P.
Okay, and so you probably didn't number the first season, so that was probably like season 0. Right.
Well, no, they were numbered originally, and then they went away, and then they came. It's a long
Yeah.
So when I started the Alexxcast, it was there weren't podcasts. Like there was like 3 people doing them, so no one knew what the fuck podcasts were. So like the first I think it was 38 that I pulled off the feed. Which are now available on my Patreon if anybody wants to listen to.
I was just going to bring that up.
And I mean, the first 38 are unfucking listable. Maybe like the first 10 are unlistable, and then they slowly, but like, especially now when people know what podcasts are, it's just some fucking weirdo in a really bad mic talking, and I've got a background music track. Like, it's this weird thing that like, it's almost like watching like the original like Edison films where it's like, yeah,
right.
I recognize
the elephant and the
and
the midgets.
Yeah, like I recognize this as being. This is a movie.
Sorry, little persons.
But it's not. At the time, they're called that. That's
right,
I think historically, you're not as horrible for using that word.
Walking on peanut shells here.
Yes. Yeah. So like the original shows are very much like those awful, Thomas Edison terrible movies where it's like I sort of recognize this as the thing that will turn into a recognizable deal.
It's the hope thing. You're witnessing. Okay, I can see this fleshing out into something great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if we can say hope for back then because no one knew what the fuck a podcast was.
That's true.
I can't stress enough how just there was no one.
Well, let's talk about that. That's a great place to start because boy, do I have questions about it. Since you were on the precipice of when everything was starting with this podcasting phenomenon, how did you? What brought you to podcasting? Because coming from a writer's background. I feel like it's a strange leap that me, you, Eric, other writers I know have taken. And I wonder what that tether is to podcasting from a writer's perspective.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, it was a direct line of I had moved to the West Coast from the East Coast. Mm-hmm. And I used to do a lot of open mic and sometimes paid poetry reading. That's what I went to school for and what I used to write, which is all poetry.
Oh, yeah.
And, so I moved out here and I fell out of the scene and I wanted to get back into it. And I had heard of a podcast. One of my friends had done a test one. And I went, oh, this is a good idea. So instead of wandering around to open mics with people I don't know, I'll just do this random podcast thing where the idea was I'll turn it on, see if I can talk for 30 minutes uninterrupted, and then read a poem or something at the end. So get reaccustomed to speaking in public, with a less impactful thing.
Yeah.
And I ended up trying to go to some open mic stuff here, and I just the poetry here was just all the style I don't like. Where
my roommate, weed.
No, I wouldn't mind. That would be fine, actually. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I'm sorry, that's stand-up comedy.
No, but I'd be happy with that because I've actually been to poetry readings where a lot of it was very much like that.
Yeah.
This was that like kind of violent, not violent's the wrong word, like the aggressive kind of deaf poetry jam style.
Sure.
Where it's like it's much more performative than like. I like kind of like literary poetry.
Right, like words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that style lacks it. It's just that's not the main focus.
Right, it's more of a performance art than it is spoken.
Yeah.
word, yeah.
So not taking anything away from the art. It's just it's not the one that I like. So I was like, I kind of stuck.
So what you're saying is they're all terrible. Is that what you're saying on the record?
That's what I'm intimating.
Well, I was going to ask too, because the structure of your writing is very poetic, but we'll get to that in a bit. What's interesting to me is how you developed podcasting, or you developed within podcasting in a way that I'm kind of doing in reverse. So you were the one that told me that you're not a podcaster unless you do an episode of you just speaking for 30 minutes or so, uninterrupted. And I took that to heart because it really is like the biggest hurdle for this medium. And it's something that I, kind of paste on my wall and like look forward to, like, when's the next one? And I treat very preciously. But you have been doing it as, you're putting yourself out there. When did the interviews start coming in? When did it start becoming more of a collaborative thing in a way?
I don't remember who the first one was, but actually so I do a movie podcast called John and Alexx Hate Stuff. And John, he's one of those people that, like, this is going to sound pathetic, and thankfully he'll never listen to this. But he's one of those people that are like, I like really wanted to be friends with. Like, you very rarely meet that type when you're like an adult.
Sure.
But I was like in my early 30s or whatever, and it's like, oh, this guy's like, this is a person I need to be. So like, I need to impress him. So like, when I started the show and started thinking about having other people on, I'm like, oh, I gotta have John on. Like, this is somebody I need to talk to. Mm-hmm. And so I had like my kind of local interesting friends on.
So it was just kind of, just bullshitting a bit. It wasn't more like concept driven, or wasn't.
No, it was just kind of just the people that I found interesting.
Yeah.
And then I started to. I don't even know how I got the first person on that, like, I didn't really know. It just kind of, it happened. And it's not like I've done a shitload of interviews with people I don't know, but I've done, a fair amount over the years. But
you managed to build a base just with your voice.
Yeah, I mean, the original Alexxcast show was those first terrible episodes. I was like number one in comedy on a couple of like really important services back then. So like,
that's legit. I mean, I totally believe it.
Yeah,
so I totally believe it.
When basically when podcasts got popular, I was like, I had an audience almost by default because like all these people were dragged along into when, famous people started having podcasts, and then
Right.
the whole world starts changing, yada yada. But I started having not famous people, but like people of note on. I mean, frankly, I think just somebody emailed me at one point and said, "Hey, can I come on and pitch my shit?" And it's like, oh, like real people want to come on. All right, I guess I will. And for a while, I was getting emails from weird publishing houses and just strange producers, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to talk to this guy. It's like, really? You're approaching me? Like, this is this is cool. So
if you build it, they will come.
Yeah. And then then of course it's me, so I kind of burned it down. But now now I'm doing it again.
Well, yeah, I was going to ask too. It's just from a inside baseball kind of thing about booking, and I don't know what sports ball is, but about booking podcasts. It's been for me too that people reach out, that people want. There's a lot less booking than you would think. It's a lot of, hey, I want to do this. Cool. When are you free? Next week. Sweet. We'll do it then.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to be a premonition of doom for you, but that was what it was like for me for a while. Uh-huh. And then I had to start reaching out to people.
Oh, I mean, there's still that. Like anyone that I've definitely done half of the work, but it's just been so enlightening to me that people. Because why wouldn't you? If back in my music days and my salad days, as it were, no salad, I would be reaching out to people, to promote myself and to do things. And I forgot about that aspect, that it goes both ways on that.
Yeah. Though for me, at some point, it's not like the well dried up, but like you kind of have to, it goes both ways. So like I also stopped reaching out to people like that like I'd had on before that like I could easily have done another interview with, but there's a certain amount of I just don't feel like it's been done. And then it's like you get a lot of these and it's nothing wrong with that, but like it's just I have a really good attention span. Uh-huh. But I don't have a good attention span to similar things. So like if I have somebody on to talk about, I don't know, a certain aspect of paranormal, let's say, like we're talking about ghosts, just to pull it out of my ass. Doesn't matter, just a ghost person. If now somebody wants to come on that's somebody that's into seances and ancient ghost stuff.
Right.
I feel
subcategories.
Like I've already done it. Like,
yeah.
And it's not like there's more stuff there. This is a failing of me as a host, but it's like I don't want to. And the problem is when you do enough episodes, there's only so much to go around. There's only so many topics, and it's just one of these kind of. So I just started, talking to my friends more again, and then I got tired of doing that.
And I think that's what keeps you such a valuable player in this game is like, and why it's so refreshing about the Alexxcast too is that you can tell that the guests are on because you're interested in the guests. It's not just a promotion machine. It's not just, hey, you reached out to me, let's do this, I guess, Yeah. It's very much like there's no rhyme or reason a lot of the times. But there are tethers to your interests only.
Yeah, I mean I joke around that this is the most egotistical podcast in the world because I call it Alexxcast, but which isn't true. It's just I started
right. Mine is a close second then.
Well, I mean, no. See, you have no excuse. I started not to keep blaming it on how long I've been around.
No, please do. That's a badge that's worth.
But there weren't any podcasts back then, so I didn't. How the hell am I supposed to know what to call a podcast? They didn't. There was 4 of them. The only show I remember listening to back then was Joe Rogan. And this was, keep in mind, this is not the Joe Rogan of now. Like, it was a very different show at that time. I just want to turn the ugh down. It was mostly just him dicking around with his comedian friends. There wasn't...
there's a place for that.
It was so different from the current show. So I don't want to cite him.
I'm not at all. I just mean,
No, his current form he's an abomination. He's embarrassing. He's anyway, but... Yeah, so that's why I like having just there was this guy on, I'll just call him my name because it's not his fault, the guy Brian Godawa, who I had him on once because I had Michael Heiser on, he's one of the guys that debunked Zachariah Sitchin, the Ancient Aliens guy. So Michael Heiser came on, he was on Ancient Aliens Debunked, he was on the actual Ancient Aliens show, and he's a debunker because he knows how to translate shit. And
he dunks the bunks.
Yeah, so it was great. Yeah, it's he's just debunking all over the place, dropping DB bombs.
Alley-ooping.
Yeah, other sports words I know. But so then this guy Brian Godawa invited himself on. That's not shitty. He sent out feelers because he
invited himself on.
They know each other, and he's like a fiction writer about kind of similar stuff. And I talked to him once. I'm like, oh yeah, this was fine. And then. I forget if he came on 2 or 3 times, but the last time I was just kind of slogging through and just oh yeah, so what's the... And it's not even like the interview sounds
Fuck aliens, am I right?
But it was this I was just doing it because of it. I was like, this is uninteresting to me. And I don't think the interview sounds bad. I think it's fine, but it's just... it's not like I'm making money off of this. Like I'm donating my own time, energy, and frankly my money to do this fucking thing. I don't need to slog through an hour of the same guy that's been on 14 other shows that week.
Yeah, and I agree. Not to slag Joe Rogan at all because I am a fan of the inside comedy circuit, stuff. But I feel that there's a bit of that happening now within the occult, and especially in podcasting. There's a bit of we're getting characters that leap in everybody else's kind of, occult paradigm or whatever as far as podcasting is concerned, and we're showcasing characters almost like stand-up comics are in the Joe Rogan realm back in the day. I feel like it's getting that prevalent that we're being, and it's fun, Yeah,
I mean, I don't know if I agree with the fun part, but yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, what's not fun about it?
I'm not a fan of the kind of, this is going to sound pretentious as shit, I don't mean it this way, but I like substance.
Oh, well,
and when it turns into kind of cult of personality, which is what happens when anything gets popular.
Yeah,
it naturally moves away from substance, and and it becomes talking points and like safe dialogue.
Sure.
And it's not that that's not interesting, but I've done enough reading that's not interesting anymore.
Right.
I know it's not for me, but and it's one of those kind of whining when I grew up, being a nerd meant something moments where being part of the occult
absolutely.
used to,
I was thinking about that today.
Being part of the occult used to have this shorthand, and now it's starting to move towards not that it's so popular, but now that there is getting
it's an aesthetic.
Yeah, it's an aesthetic, and it's difficult to kind of.
I mean, I think
communicate in
that's
that
what I
world,
meant.
yeah.
It was that, like, we are now so inundated that there are characters that there are Carlos Mencias of the occult.
Yeah, but the thing is,
know?
but yeah,
To me, that's fun.
and see, that just bothers me because they're the ones that get popular, and it becomes just like
Right,
And
right.
now, but those are the ones that like the normies hear of. So they're
Yeah,
like,
but that's the whole point, like,
Yeah.
it took me a while to kind of realize, and honestly, like, who gives a fuck, like, to me anyway, like, my idea of it, because it's something I wrestle with all the time. I get up in arms a lot about people that are peddling things and
Yeah.
peddling things that are so beyond a realm of, like, self-understanding or, and I get up in arms about it, and then I remember, what, people have said to me, people that I look up to, and it's all like, who gives a fuck? They're kind of weeding them out for you, in a way,
that is a point.
Yeah.
I come from the other side where it makes, as somebody that enjoys this stuff, it makes it harder to find
Sure.
the things I enjoy. And then as someone who as a creator,
Yeah,
if I'm associated with the occult, the esoteric, the weird, which I am,
right.
it's much harder for me to come out and get my work noticed because there's this vast sea of kind of Carlos Mencias,
Right,
of Yuri
of
Gellers,
Mencias.
yeah.
Occult Mencias.
And it's just like this, and it's more. I mean, it's
And
always
there
gonna
are
be
some
difficult.
that are deep in the fabric that we both know well.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
No. I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, there's writers that I respect that do it. Like,
Yeah.
there's people that you see turn the corner and go, oh, now I'm trying to make money, and it's. I'm not. It's not like the hating. It's that hate the player, don't hate the player, hate the game thing. Where it's like I don't begrudge them. Go make your money. It just
No.
It
But
just
in the
sucks
occult,
it
don't
just-
hate the game. Hate the player.
No, because I mean the thing is, I'm complaining that I have to show up to work 5
Yeah.
days a week. I have like no fucking energy left to do the stuff I want to do. Not no energy, but like it'd be so much easier for me to be creative. It'd be so much more fruitful if I didn't have to like sell my soul to the machine Monday through Friday.
And which is the most, like, unadulterated, straight, to use the term again, tether to what this all means anyway.
So when they're kind of, they get away with it. Like they get they get off the wheel by nefarious means. I like
It is nefarious. You're
So I
right.
kind of,
Yeah.
but I hate like the games. Like it's the game. Like it's not their fault. They did it right. I'm the one unwilling to.
No,
you know.
see, I think that's wrong. I think that's wrong in the sense that I think you're doing it right, and I think it is a hate the player situation. I think it is reverse in the way because the game is not that. The true game is being played wrong. I guess is maybe what I'm.
But the problem is.
thinking of.
The true game, you still have to break your back at work Monday through Friday.
I
Unless
love
you
it.
come
Like
from
two
money.
sportsless people are using sports.
You know what's funny?
metaphors
No,
as well.
I midway through this, I started thinking about board games, and I understood the metaphor.
Okay, there you go. Yeah,
Um,
I was looking at that. Yeah.
Because it's it's like I'm still breaking my back on the wheel, where it's
Yeah.
like, and I'm
Sorry,
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry would be a great metaphor. Yeah, instead of I know more about the game of sorry than I do baseball, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I still have to show up Monday through Friday, and they don't. So it's like, I mean, who's really? I mean, yeah, you're kind of being a dick and selling your soul a bit and repeating bullshit, nonsense phrases to get popular, but also you don't go to work Monday through Friday. So like, there's a definite like.
There's a rubric.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
they're doing something right. Like it's like I never begrudge somebody that writes a pop song to sell their album where it's like, yeah,
They're
not,
working.
That's
Yeah.
not your music, but you did it. You sold the pop song. So it's like, oh yeah, you figured out that, talking about whatever conspiracy or whatever paranormal stuff
Yeah.
gets people to talk to you and buy your book that you put no work into, then that's the one that kills me the most is there's a lot of like paranormal, esoteric, magical community that their writing is dog shit. And
Yeah.
they just have like titillating covers and titles and like they just use big magic words and expect people to not get it and think they're magic. They're like they're all like these wannabe Crowleys where I know Crowley knew a bunch, but the guy was a shitty writer. Like he wrote like it's muddy on purpose.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, I feel like they're all biting their pinky like, ooh, me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's everybody and they just is gross. And I'm sitting here trying to like craft
I'm
art.
naughty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh. God.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, and the whole left hand sexy magic thing where it's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, nothing.
Hey, magic is sexy.
No,
but
that's fine.
Yeah, not
I
in
mean
this,
I mean the girl that happens to be. She would be attractive if she was blonde hair and a Kardashian or whatever.
Right.
Oh, I'm a left-hand path person, and not even just, I shouldn't just say girl.
God,
actually,
Marjorie Cameron, sit down.
But guys are just as big of a purveyor of this too.
I
Like, if you're
think the
halfway
the
handsome of a
heaviest.
guy, you're
Yeah.
everything.
Thanks,
is
Jack
dramatic
Parsons.
headshots.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, Jack Parsons. Especially with this, new, huge wave of iconography that Jack Parsons is having.
Yeah.
I mean, not only has the show come out, but Sean Lennon and Les Claypool just put out this concept record that is literally about Jack Parsons.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it's so in the social conscious, and like, so I did the lyrics, for my job, which that's all I'll say about what I do for a living. But I edited the lyrics for the Sean Lennon, Les Claypool, Jack Parsons song. It's, and in it they talk about, the AA.
Yeah.
And they talk about, becoming friends with Crowley, and they're just hitting the surface, and I'm like, wow, it has hit a fever pitch.
Well,
like, this shit has hit a fever pitch, and people are just like randomly throwing out the AA.
I don't disagree with your point, but I think the person you chose is the worst one, because literally,
Sean Lennon.
His dad had an album where Aleister Crowley was on the cover.
Oh, sure.
I mean,
yeah.
he is from a lineage of weirdos, but
No, I would say Rolling Stones were bigger than that.
Yeah, no, but your point is very well made. It is
Yeah.
100%. It is in the like that fucking Supernatural show has been on for 30 years. That entire thing is just full of like occult, like just little bits and bobs, thrown together.
So tell me, when did it get comfortable for you to kind of? Because I know there is like a weird coming out kind of phase when it comes to this stuff. For a lot of us, kind of people that come from impoverished backgrounds and are well read or self-educated, like, I feel that there is, not to liken it to coming out in other ways, but there is this weird way of like being proud and out loud about the occult. When did that happen with the Alexxcast?
I don't know if I ever was in the closet about that.
Yeah.
I had this kind of idea when the show started to pick up, or maybe it was even before I put out the first episode, but very, very, very early on, I had the phrase warts and all of, I am not going to hold back from the audience about...
It's like a Dogma 95 thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tried it. So I don't know that I was ever... I don't know if I was ever like 100%... I mean... I think at some point I got a little more comfortable talking about it, but only because I knew the audience would hang out for it. Mm-hmm. Originally I didn't talk about it so much, but I think there's just more that I wasn't sure if people would stick around. And then, because during the old episodes of the show, I used to end it with a tarot reading, like, so it's always kind of been a through line. So I don't know.
So how would you do that tarot reading? Is it tarot reading for yourself?
Much in the way that nearly 10 years in, I don't know if you capitalized the T in the Alexxcast.
Right.
Every time I did the reading, I went, I don't really know what I'm reading for right now. I just basically flipped over a few cards.
I like that. Yeah. That's good.
The thing that actually I came out more on the show about, and I think this is directly related to magic, is I had referenced being depressed over the years.
Yes.
But at some point, I actually I decided to allow the actual story to come out. So I've talked about suicidal ideation.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
Where how deep it went, and kind of the help I've needed and the things I've gone through, whatever.
Yeah.
That was much more for me the coming out thing of instead of just making a vague reference to that kind of artistic melancholia that we all have, to be like, no, I actually have a severe I have a mental I have a mental health disorder that's
me too.
Yeah, what the doctor has said, you have these words, instead of just oh, your life's a bit of a bummer, or hey, you wear black and like poetry, you're naturally going to be of a mopey disposition, which I mean, I think I probably would be anyway, even if my brain worked.
It is wearing your heart on the sleeve, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah, I was talking, our friend Eric from My Alchemical Bromance, I was talking to him about, when magic comes into play in somebody's life. And I asked him point blank, because I felt weird. I felt almost ashamed to use magic through desperation. And he was like, no, that's when you use it. Yeah. That's when it comes through. And I was like, I think that helped me realize where it comes from in a way of unadulterated honesty,
Yeah.
And I see that a lot in your art, especially, and in Periphery, your book, which is your first and only full-length novel.
Yeah, that's the only full-length novel I have out.
Yeah, and so I wanted to jump into that because there is a lot of parallels to kind of what I'm going through in writing my first one, and this funny parallel about these fantastical stories about rebirth.
Yeah.
And, like, I just wanted to know where you were at in your life when you started constructing Periphery.
Well,
Does that tie into the depression a bit?
I mean, depression has a through line, but actually, the through line in Periphery, weirdly enough, is what we're talking about, is magical. So,
right.
The idea behind Periphery, without giving spoilers away,
I was going to ask what your elevator pitch was.
Well, I mean, the elevator pitch is basically, a guy, basically our hero enters into an alternate universe, or does he? Kind of. That's a terrible elevator pitch. I've never been good at these.
I was gonna say it's like a fish out of water, but it's what I call an odd job story.
I mean, this isn't the elevator pitch, but the reason, the thing behind Periphery and what you're picking up on is the idea of Periphery is you read the book once and it's an initiatory rite. It is literally written as a magical initiatory rite. If you read the entire book, stopped, turned around, and started reading the book again, there are things in the books that, to use the magical phrase, you did not have the eyes to see when you read it the first time.
They were in your periphery.
Yeah. So when you read it now, you have been initiated into the concept of the book and how it works. Turning around and reading again immediately, there is an embedded, not necessarily like another story, but there is a lot going on that you did not have the ability to know was going on when you read it the first time.
Yeah.
And that is not the total point of the book, but for like magical people, that's the point of the book, is I am mimicking a magical initiation.
Absolutely.
It's an initiatory ceremony.
And honestly, it unfolds like in the way a, esoteric upbringing would, which is the more deep you're into it, the less you kind of know what's happening in a way.
Yeah. And as the narrative moves on, there's not necessarily weirder elements, but
it's understandable, but it's like, you can see where Johnny, who is the protagonist, is kind of thrust into a psychic kind of hellish vortex of, his own shit mirrored, and so it's a really beautiful kind of rebirth story. That's kind of how I took it, but it's also what I think is like what I'm reading into it, and the first time I'm reading into it, because that's where I am in my life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's there. I mean, that's part of. I mean, again, going back to initiatory magic, is you don't go into initiatory magic because everything's going well.
Well, the desperation.
Like you were saying, desperation. So the thing with magic, and this is something that I don't remember who said it the first time. It is not a unique phrase, but I don't remember. The point is, the phrase is, magic is very effective. It is also the hardest way to do anything.
Right.
Is that it's nearly impossible, and it'd be dumb to do it another way. Like money magic, the best way to do money magic is to go back to school, get a BA, because it is the way to affect the universe through actual magic is so difficult that it's almost nonsense to do.
There's that analogy. Why would you learn to walk on water when there's a boat?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So the initiatory process is like that, where you don't really go through it because everything's going great. I mean, I guess some people do, but you get the idea. So that's Periphery is coming from a place of like it's that the thing with alchemy is it's Sawe et Coagula.
That's what it is.
Like dissolution and like kind of reconfiguration. Which,
that's absolutely what it is. It's a self alchemy, and that's what the thing I'm working on right now has always been. I've been working on it for 10 years, and it's just funny to see the parallels of like how I want to know where it came from you. Like, where were you that you felt like you needed to put it in artistic terms? Like, what needed to kind of change? What needed to alchemize? That's not a word, but
Well, I mean, for me, what made me want to turn my baser lead into the more purified gold? I mean, to give the short version of things is what I was kind of hanging my hat on. My life path went to shit. It didn't work.
Right.
So when I went to school for, kind of failed. Things didn't work out. And I'd moved to the other side of the country as kind of a last-ditch effort to kind of maybe I wasn't at last ditch yet, but as an attempt to kind of rebuild myself and like figure out what I want to do in a different place. And I'd been in Portland for long enough that, you know, that last ditch effort seems to not have been working. Like,
Right.
I was almost kind of out of ideas almost of how to, you know,
the
like
Hail Mary almost.
yeah, like the everything still hurts. Like, I don't know, like it's one of these kind of almost,
Yeah, it's not the place, it's you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's this idea as well of like, not to say I was thinking about offing myself, which I mean, it certainly was. I do it all the time, but like,
Sure.
there's a certain thing of like,
I don't mean to laugh. I
when do you-
agree. Yeah.
Well, no, I said it in a flippant way. I mean, it's just you
Yeah,
have to be. You know, it's when your brain works like this. Why?
Oh, yeah.
Why be dour about being dour?
I wrote it
Yeah.
today. I was like, you know, when your humor gets so dark that suicide becomes a punchline rather than a surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
And that's exactly what, I
So
see.
I was at this kind of at that point, and I you know, I've always been writing. I've always wanted to write a book, and I just kind of, not that I was putting everything behind it, but I was kind of putting that book as like at least I did this sort of thing. Like, I can at least I turned what no one should go through, and that's not a woe is me. I mean that like
No, yeah.
universally. Like, depression is
It's a fickle broad.
yeah, but no, I was gonna say it's fucking bullshit, and this is unfair, and I feel bad for everybody that goes through it. This
Yeah,
is, This is a
absolutely, yeah.
garbage fire, and it's nonsense that we were saddled
No
with this
rhyme or
shit.
reason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fine with like good old fashioned French existentialist depression. That's
Sure.
fine, but like proper medical depression, fuck.
Trust fund
yeah.
depression.
Yeah, that's I'm kind of fine with that. I just wish I had a trust fund.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, so I was writing Periphery in that mindset of, you know. Not that I don't know that I would have put it into those words, but it is like kind of dissolution of self and rebuilding that, like, at that point, I'm now a novelist in a very strict sense. Mm-hmm. I've written a novel. I published it. I mean, it's not like, you know, I went to a publishing house or whatever, but like it's out there. It's in the
No, it
universe.
is legit. Yeah.
Humans read it. Like, a significant number of humans read it. I mean, significant enough for a weird-ass book that no one's heard of, you know, read it. Like, it's there in the ether, and I think that's as an artist writing an art about initiatory process, like coming
Yeah.
out the other side is you are different. You come out of the cave after the you know,
Yeah.
after the mystical experience, wipe your eyes, and you're like, I'm a different
You
person.
engineered a new life with a novel.
Yeah, and I engineered a magical work because that book had weird magic with it after it came out.
I can tell. Yeah, there's very Kabbalistic, hermetic things in it, which I don't know if you were astute in any of that stuff when you wrote it, but it seems like very laden with very interesting things.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say I was astute, but I knew then what I know now.
Yeah.
So if you think I know stuff now, I knew it back then.
Yeah,
You know, it's like I've read about all this stuff for so many years that like,
Right.
you know, but for what's hidden in there, it is meant to be magical. But I more mean like literally the magical act. Like, so when it came out, I started having pictures being sent to me of the internet of people finding random orange dinosaurs, which is this little subplot in the
Right.
book.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people started sending pictures. This guy Mateo, who he has no reason to lie, I totally trust the guy,
Yeah.
found one in his house that he didn't buy it. It's not.
Weird.
There's no reason for it to be in his house. Like, a fucking orange dinosaur manifested itself in his house.
I was gonna say my thought with it was the origami unicorn Blade Runner.
Yeah, totally. Somebody else
Yeah.
has made that. Not sorry, I didn't mean to sound like ooh, somebody else did that.
Yeah, okay,
I meant that in an excited way. Like, oh, somebody else did. Like, I love that idea.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because I found them since then. Like, I put that into the universe. and
That's so cool. Yeah.
yeah, but there's.
I mean, to me, that is like the apex of everything that I'm interested in. That is like literally creating your own mythology and it bleeding into reality. There's nothing finer, you know?
well, and it became this other thing of like kind of the find the others moment where
Yeah.
there were these.
It's a beacon.
Yeah, there were these other kind of. There were people that got put together, and this is kind of part of the Alexxcast as a magical thing as well, where I have been in my life this kind of weird middle gear between groups. Like, I've always had this like like this kind of connective. I've always been connective tissue between disparate things, and Periphery and Alexxcast did that as well. Where all of a sudden these groups kind of smashed together that never would have met each other, and like these well springs happened. It's not like any of them would go, "Oh, we met because of Periphery," but it's like since I was there watching, it's like, yeah, that's what happened. You met because of
You created a conduit.
Yeah, and it's if I have any kind of unique, metaphysical power, which I don't, but if I did, that would be it.
That's so funny. That's exactly what my father has said his superpower was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was being a conduit between people.
Yeah,
or like between things. Yeah,
it's just always been that way with me. Like
I feel the same. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I wonder where. So where like what was your regimen? What was your routine in writing something like this? Was this kind of like an after 9 to 5 sort of thing, just kind of when you could, or was there an actual ritual to it?
No, it was when I could.
As it should.
Yeah, I'm not great at like kind of. I'm good at time management, but I'm terrible at like submitting to schedule. So like,
me too. Lord, do I try.
So there were certain kind of ritualistic aspects. Like there was a coffee shop I went to and I wrote a ton at. I edited at a certain bar when it got to the end of the book, and I had like a printout. And I love editing by pen and paper. So print out the book, cross it out, and write notes. And I just feel like that.
Me too. Yeah.
Sees the world differently. But I mean, as far as like that, no, the main kind of ritual aspect, oddly, it's not that odd, but like I'm not good at naming. Never been. So naming a book and chapter headings.
Oh, really?
I
was going to say, that's kind of what I get off on. I love, like, one of my favorite things is to name. And, like, the names in the book seem so intentional. And it's a many-chaptered book. And, like, the subtitle chapters of the book seem very, like, fun. Like, it was... you kind of wrote, like, that was the outline of what's coming.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But that was... If there's any yeoman's work in that, it's those. Like, I'm terrible at that. I mean, some were natural, that just, I knew what the chapter was and just the title sprang, but like, there was a lot of it that like, it was just painful to go through, especially even just naming the book. Like, it was like, I was done. I was 100% done with every single thing.
You were vexed.
And I just couldn't, I tried to find a title, and I'm still not entirely happy with Periphery as a title, but like, it's all right.
That's great. Yeah. No, I mean, and it works with the narrative of how, when you gave me the book, you told me that it's something, and like every author says this to a degree at some point, it's, it's to be reread. But with you, I could see the intention, and within the title, I saw the intention. Like, when I was reading it with keeping the title in mind, it was like, let's side-eye every instance that's happening. Because when I do reread it, I know that shit's going to connect.
Yeah. There's one that I give away because I don't think it's like the most plot-oriented thing. But,
which one?
So at one point, John is sitting at a bar just kind of like being pissed at himself, and he's about to run into Hephaestus. It's another character in the book. I should explain this to the audience. But John's our main character. Hephaestus is kind of this... like teacher guru character, but slightly more, not to give anything away. But anyway,
he's Obi-Wan.
Yeah, it's Obi-Wan, perfect. So John's at a bar drinking, and then he's about to run into Hephaestus. But John, at some point while he's there, coughs on invisible dust. It's just a throwaway line. Now, do you remember later in the book, John is in what might be the same bar that's been shut down forever, and he coughs on very visible dust, and it's the two scenes mirrored to each other. So it's one of those things where until you read that second scene, that cough is just this innocuous, Alexx just wrote him coughing for some reason.
Yeah.
But now it's, at least, in the second reading, it's, wait a second, is this the same scene? Are we...
Yeah. Well, and I see that a bit. I miss that one.
Oh, that's why I use that one, because it's innocuous. But
right.
It's an example of, upon second reading, there's a lot of these little things that there's no reason for you to have picked up on it until the second read. You're like, oh, now that he's given me the eyes to see it, now I see this in a different manner.
I love it. And that's exactly that's why the title works so beautifully. But I was talking with Eric Miller. He read the book too. Eric Miller, artist extraordinaire.
Yeah. The disruption generator.
Which hopefully we'll be doing something with at the end here.
Yeah.
But who you're working with the comic kind of thing with.
Yeah, we're gonna start doing a comic book.
Well, what's incredible about that is when Eric and I were talking about Periphery, I was like, I wonder if Alexx has ever scripted a comic book. Have you ever scripted a comic book?
Yeah, the one he's doing. Like,
Okay,
the reason
so you know what like you know what the layout is, right? The way Periphery is written, I read like I was reading a script of a comic book, which is brilliant in a way, except without the panel, jurisdiction. It is the narrator, which won't give anything away, but like the narrator is very like outline poetic enough, very succinct, very small paragraph, like just to kind of thrust you in the story. It uses a lot of like rhyme and cool things to like narrative structure, but it is very much like not a old-fashioned, narrative or a third-person narrative.
No, the part of it is it's written in a, well, I mean, not to give too much away, but yeah, it's written in that purposely where I do a lot of, not to use any kind of good example, but like he walked to the door, he found himself at the door, he did where normally you're not supposed to repeat like a couple, you're not supposed to repeat lines at the beginning, but like I try to do it with like to the point that you're getting like, we're actually in a, like, because again, going back to we haven't mentioned it, but like that whole hero's journey thing, which I was going to say before, is like I think that's what you're picking up too. That all journeys are the thing, and that
Campbell, is
that cycle. And I tried to do that a lot with like kind of the verbiage of it to kind of, it's like a lulling. I think what's with trees, cerceration. It's just like this ebb and flow and back and forth, and it's repetitive thing. And then I try to smack you across the face with something, because now you're in this kind of Homeric verse cycle, and then it's
right. But there is a narrator with a consciousness.
Yeah.
Like there is, and the way it's written would be like when I was writing the thing I'm writing now, which I've been writing for 10 years. I've written like many different graphic novel kind of script treatments have all kind of resembled that in a way where you get poetic and you're given poetic license to talk about what the artist should put in the panel,
Yeah.
And it's blocked in a way to where it's sequential, but of course it's a long form narrative. Like it's not like that. It's not broken into panels or anything. But it screamed at me that like, oh, like I didn't realize, and thank you for this, I didn't realize that the way that I was trying to mold the thing that I was doing from graphic novel outline wasn't it of itself almost the narrative that I should have just been writing in.
Oh yeah. That's, I mean, for the way I'm writing, so I wrote the comics I'm working on with Eric. I wrote 6 years ago, and the only reason this came back up is Facebook did one of those 2 years ago, and it was 2 years ago me bitching about how the comic book never happened.
Oh, I remember.
So that's
So I've been trying to do it too. Yeah.
I wrote these years ago, and I just never had an artist to work with. But I just wrote a vague outline, because my idea with, I like to work. I want to work with an artist. We're both creators of the comic. Instead of me going in this panel, like I don't want a drawing monkey. I want another creator.
Absolutely.
But that makes total sense, because Eric actually commented that like my layouts made sense. Like, and I just kind of wrote it as like the thing. So it's like, maybe that's just my natural thing.
Periphery. When we were just talking earlier, you were mentioning that two of the characters who were major players used to be one, and I wanted to know, in a narrative structure, when you're working on something like that, what portends you to do something like that?
Well, I just thought of something else too that I should tell you, because this is how bad I am at mythologizing myself. I totally forgot that Periphery, the entire concept of Periphery, was given to me in a dream one night.
What?
I forgot.
That's the initiation right there.
Yeah, because it's one of those things that changed so much since then, but I just remembered. All right, so I had this dream. So I can't really give it away, but there's a major thing. There's a tree in Periphery, and I can't give away, but a thing that happens to the tree in the book, I saw in a dream, and in that dream there was this kind of black and white girl in a dress near the tree, holding a balloon.
Holy shit, that was my Hecate vision.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
I'm not joking.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Maybe we're sharing similar like distillations of the universal
of
consciousness.
the Kabbalistic tree of life.
Yeah. Or the what's the Akashic library?
There you go. The records.
Yeah.
The Akashic records.
Yeah. So
Edgar Casey.
Yeah. Well, no, I meant, but he was referencing that's an Indian concept of like the basically this internet of everything that's ever been known.
Right. I thought that's what the Akashic records.
Yeah. No, but I mean it's like an old Indian Vedic thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So in the original dream, it was this girl in a dress in the yard holding a balloon with this tree. And I painted it. So if anybody ever goes to alexxcast.com, that's like the main website for my podcast. There's the header of it is the girl in the tree. And when I started writing the book, she became a character in it. I mean, she was always a character. But the book is set up that like all the characters are like interwoven in a kind of a unique pattern. And I realized that she was wearing like everybody in the book is kind of almost like metaphors for something else. I'm saying this so vaguely because I don't want to give too much away, but
they're not necessarily archetypes. They're not like.
No, I mean they're representational. Yeah, in a certain way. But so the girl in the yard, who was my absolutely favorite character, ended up needing to do more than she could as a character. So I had to.
She's kind of the best character.
Yeah. Callie,
yes,
who ended up being
obviously
in the later book.
The name, like really ring a lot. Yeah.
So I had to split them up into the boy in the yard and Callie,
right.
And it ended up being a really fruitful thing because once they broke into two, I realized the power I had now. So when it was one character...
Yeah, because they're very different characters.
Yeah.
Like, very different.
But that's Callie as the mythological concept. She's a creator and a destroyer. And now, not that those two characters are creator
one is very
destroyer.
cold, one is very warm.
But, so if you have a character that's very densely bound, like there's so much limitation, and that's what their character is. Almost like
they do too much.
I don't want to say... Yeah, too much is probably a good word, but I mean, like, even in like if you're like, I don't know, Obi-Wan to go back to Star Wars, where there's a lot of complexity there. So there's only so much Obi-Wan could do. But if you split off Obi-Wan's fun-loving young side with his old, ascetic ascended master side, those two people could do a lot more things. So
you get Luke and Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to do with these two, is because I realized that this is such a tightly bound character, and I love that character, and I kind of miss it as being one person.
Yeah.
But that character can only do certain things because it had so much to it. It was so characterful. So I split into two, and now I have this creepy fucking boy in the yard that speaks with a Tom Waits voice.
Yeah. And that's totally how I heard it.
Well, it originally was. That was originally the line, and I went, I can't use that in a book. But that's exactly, I think I said he's got a voice like gravel, but I'm like, it was just Tom Waits I was picturing the whole time.
The piano has been drinking.
Yeah, exactly. Just imagining that coming out of a child was so beautiful to me. Yeah. And then the girl in the yard became Callie, and she could do so much more. Now she can have relationships with other characters, which were impossible.
Oh, and she is that like perennial archetype. She's that like Betty Brant, in Spider-Man. She's like the secretary for J. Jonah Jameson almost. I feel like she's a love interest, and she's like the foil to J. Jonah Jameson because she's so like earthly. Yeah. I see what you're saying there. Yeah. I don't know. That was comic nerd shit.
No, it's accurate. It's just I haven't read a Spider-Man comic in.
Oh, and this is old school.
I mean, it's probably. I don't
think Betty Brant is. Maybe she was in the movies. She was in the Tobey Maguire movies.
Yeah, I think about 15 years since the last time I read a Spider-Man comic, so I was like kind of struggling for the character. Yeah. But she got to wear a lot more hats. Also, she got to have a relationship with other characters that were with the original thing was she was like almost this Yoda thing with she did what she did, and she was this wise, powerful, and I loved it, but she was just she couldn't do things. She couldn't have interactions. She couldn't like pair off with other characters, and I'm so glad I changed it because certain things happened to her towards the end of the book, like interaction-wise with other characters, and I'm like, I'm so fucking happy that I didn't write this whole goddamn book with the original version of her, because this couldn't happen, and I love that this happened, and this led to this whole. So I mean, it comes down to that old adage of you kill your darlings, or whatever phrase you want to use is you cannot be afraid to destroy a thing that's good, that you're enamored with, because sometimes like fucking really lovely beauty can come from it.
I feel also too in this day and age, especially with character development, we're hitting a lot of walls, I think, in popular culture with things that are too altruistic, too overpowered, or too whatever, like too easy, not enough growth, not enough poison in their anecdote, you know?
Yeah, no, we're losing, and this is not, this is the least original thing I'll ever say, but like we're losing gray space, we're losing nuance, and it goes directly to the political cycle we're in. Is the idea is we are so incredibly fucking binary, except for in sexual politics. No one thinks in gray anymore. There's no middle ground. There's no like.
There's
character.
also a fear too, you know, because I'm the first one that wants to run around and go Grey Jedi, Grey Jedi.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, like, oh man, the stink of the dark on that is a hard thing to shake these days.
Yeah, but how do you get the Bendu without having some kind of Grey
exactly.
and the Bendu's the fucking shit.
We are the Bendu.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just such a great concept to me. I mean, I've always used, come on, we are children of Star Wars. We've always used that as the big Joseph Campbell hero's journey thing. That's
the only reason I ever heard of it.
I mean, you know, when you read even fucking Aleister Crowley and they're like, everyone is a star. You know, everyone's Luke Skywalker in their own Star Wars. That's what I've always said.
Yeah.
It's what everyone always says, right? Because it's true. It's very true. But no one ever talks about, like, splitting the dichotomy.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's like, I saw an article the other day that was like, and I didn't read it. I just loved the headline, and forgive me because this is totally like poser speak because I didn't read the article. God knows if it was good or not. But the headline was, if this was Star Wars, everyone would be a Sith. And I totally agree with that. Because everyone is driven by emotion, you know, and
beyond that, everybody's also just desire for self. Like,
exactly, and you know, I guess in a way, Jedi is just like this improbable humanistic achievement. It's almost like none of us can consciously be that.
Well, I mean, I think the idea is,
and I guess that's why it's revered.
But it's just Buddhism is striving is part of it. Like,
but at the same time, you know, like I know Buddhists that love. You know, I know Buddhists.
No, but that's but I think that's the downside to the Jedi to actually talk about like just the bad storytelling.
No connections.
But I mean, Buddhism. No, you're allowed to love in certain kind of Buddhism, but like in the kind of not everybody. You don't have to be Buddha to be a Buddhist. You know, you don't have to be
right.
A Jedi
there are many Buddhas all the time.
Yeah. So
I love that concept. That you know, there's a Buddha right now that we know. That we just haven't named yet. Yeah, and
also everybody has their Buddhahood in them. I mean, that's kind of the point. Yeah, that's that Om Mani Padme Om. Like I'm bowing to the seat of the lotus. Like I'm recognizing this fantastic thing in you. But now the thing about like the everybody being Luke Skywalker is, one, those would make for terrible stories if everybody was Luke Skywalker.
Right. But everyone feels they are. I mean.
Yeah, which is but I think that's problematic is recognition, and not to say like, oh, we need to go back to when there was a peasant class, but like serfs. Like everybody, but in that like in this kind of concept of everybody is a star, everybody's a special amazing person.
Right.
I love that as a concept for self-fulfillment, but
there's a caveat with that too. And the whole thing is, stars are light years apart. And the thing is that everybody's Luke Skywalker on their own journey, but you're not to intercede or, fuck up anybody else's Star Wars.
Yeah, but everybody being Luke Skywalker, they would have lost if everybody was Luke Skywalker.
Right, right. I think more it's more of like a cultural observation. You know,
but that's the way people think. But some people do need to like in the like kind of. In the hero's journey kind of concept, I mean, this isn't surprising, but like, I'd much rather be Han Solo, where,
I like, the chaotic neutral.
Yeah, and he actually he has like he's not just this thing from a book. A moves to B, right? B becomes glorious.
Even chaotic good seems out of bounds. I mean, I'm talking in Dungeons and Dragons, ideas like. I always think about that. Like there is, do you know just a good or like, when it comes to Star Wars, like Han Solo is as a chaotic neutral. It's like he's on a flip of a dime because we all are. Like we need money, motherfucker. We're gonna do whatever we need to do.
Yeah,
wherever we need to go.
I only know one person that is actually like good. Like and it's
Sure.
and she is like this effulgent, radiant thing to be around that is actually like kind of gross. Where it's like, get away from, like, you can't be this, like it's like it's
Yeah, I guess it's in an eye of the beholder, to use a cliche.
like you're like amazing. Like you're not a human. Like you're like the next evolution of a spiritual animal. Like this is this. You know, so in my 38 years on this planet and knowing, you know, so many fucking people through the podcast and writing and just living my life, I've got one. So yeah, our odds aren't great right now.
I love you. Thank you very much.
Keith. Thank you for having me on. I'm hitting stop on this machine.
Thanks again to Alexx of the Alexxcast. You can read his books. He has a short story collection coming. I don't know when he's going to publish that, but please keep updated via Instagram, Facebook. All of those links are in the description below. I want to thank him again for being just such a inspiration, the godfather of pods casted and casting pods. Anyways, I wanted to take a quick note. You'll notice in the show notes there's a link on donating towards Genesis P. Orridge's leukemia fund. She just recently had a big health scare, and Jason Louv of Ultra Culture is spearheading this campaign to generate some income for her, because it is fucking ridiculous that she doesn't have the funds to do so herself, for as much as she has contributed to O-culture, to progressing our culture, what we do, and what magic and art is in the modern era. And it just makes me think of the fates of Nikola Tesla and Austin Osman Spare, even Crowley, and how they passed away penniless, and it's ridiculous, and we've come so far to not help. So please donate generously. The link is down there. You can listen to the full unedited Alexxcast and me cast on Patreon. I just got done with the crazy big move, so more updates to come. Love you all. Haunt on.